everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I am thrilled to have with us today an incredible serial entrepreneur, Doug Dohring. He is the founder of ABCmouse, which is one of the most popular early childhood technologies, if not the most popular, with over 6 million students using the platform every single year, over 10,000 learning activities. He was also the CEO of Neopets, which was actually one of the most sticky sites on the internet. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start with the origin of ABCmouse.
Okay.
So can you take us back and share with us why and how you got started with it?
Sure. Actually, I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years now. I started my first company in 1986. It was a consumer research company, and we became a top 100 research firm in the country. And then in late 99, early 2000, as the internet was really starting to rage, I had the opportunity to found a company called Neopets, and it was really a safe haven for kids on the web, because at that time in late 90s, early 2000s, it was a pretty scary place for parents to have their kids on the internet. So we scaled that business up over a 5-year period to a global phenomenon. We translated the product into 10 languages beyond English, so it was originally in English. We registered 140 million accounts in 5 years. We were registering like 80 to 100,000 accounts a day. And it was the stickiest site on the internet in the US and probably the world for time spent per user and page views per user. And we were serving 5 billion page views a month in the US and 3 billion internationally. So there was a lot of challenges to that, technology challenges and so forth, with Oracle software and Sun Microsystems servers that you had to pay for each processor you had in these servers and so forth. So the site would be down probably 2 or 3 hours a day for a certain period of time, probably over a year, because we had so much traffic we couldn't handle the load. So we put up a mini site that kids could come to and at least have some interaction while we fixed the issue each day. We had just unbelievable problems with growing fast, which was a good thing, but a bad thing, as you can imagine. So how that relates to ABCmouse and Age of Learning.
By the way, when we were getting ready for this panel and I was talking to our associate team, they can name their Neopets.
Yeah.
So Karina in the audience, who I told I wasn't going to call out, but I'm calling her out. Kachinka was her Neopet.
Yeah. So there's been at least a half a dozen people at this conference that had to come up to me and say I was a huge Neopet. So if you were sort of 8 to 14 years old, 8 to 16 years old, anytime between 2000 and 2005, you undoubtedly had a Neopet, because everybody did. It was really the craze. And the interesting thing is that we never advertised at all Neopets. It was all viral, and all the growth that we had was based on referrals from our user base. But how that relates to Age of Learning and ABCmouse is that over that period, seeing that level of engagement from kids on this platform was truly amazing. I mean, the Nielsen Net Ratings, which is the service that was out at that time, would just consistently show us month after month after month being the #1 site for time spent per user and page views per user for all sites, not just kids sites. So it was really incredible. And then we were like the number 3 or 4 website in the US for total page views. So there was Yahoo and AOL and Neopets, right? And it was like what? Who is this little company, right? And so, again, how that relates to age of learning is that I thought towards the end of that 5-year period, if we could create that kind of engagement and have it be curriculum-based, so there was a lifelong takeaway for as much time as kids were spending with the product, that's something that would be incredible to be doing, and I almost felt a responsibility to do it since I had the idea. Because, you know, we all know the state of education in this country, and there are solutions, right? I mean, billions of dollars are spent every year, and things don't change. So when I first started, that's when I decided to sell Neopets, and we sold it to Viacom in June of 2005. I had to agree to an 18-month transition, so I actually didn't start Age of Learning until early 2007. So, you know, we basically made the decision to start a new company rather than try to incorporate education into the Neopets site, because it was ad supported, and it wasn't education from the very beginning, and there were just a lot of reasons why we wanted to start it from scratch. And we served, you know, primarily 8 to 14-year-olds on Neopets, but 20% of our users were 18 and over, believe it or not. So it was quite interesting audience to serve. But
so you went younger with Age of Learning. Why did you decide to go younger?
Well, the reason for that was that when we determined that well over half the fourth graders that enter fourth grade or below grade level in every subject, we couldn't really start with third and fourth grade content because we would be missing well over half the kids. So we started with preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten. It took us 3.5 years to develop that content before we moved on to first and second grade content and so forth.
So 3.5 years. There's, especially in Silicon Valley, a real ethos around the lean startup and, you know, launching and then iterating. And you spent 3.5 years building it before you launched anything to anyone. Can you talk about that decision?
Sure. You know, our objective was to get it right as opposed to get something to market. And right, in our estimation, was serving a wide enough age range of kids and with a comprehensive curriculum. So we address language arts, math, science and social studies, some health across preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten. And we felt that was sort of the minimum offering that we could have in the market to start getting some traction and scale. So our goal was to launch that and go immediately into first and second grade. But being from the early 2000s era of the internet, it was all computer-based, right? So when we started our development in 2007, we built the entire product over that 3.5 years in Flash. And so we're ready to launch the product, and Steve Jobs says, we're not going to support Flash on an iOS platform. So anyhow, luckily, you know, the smartphones took a while to catch on. And so we launched it on desktop only. And, you know, it took us, you know, probably 12 to 18 months to optimize the product and the marketing before we started scaling up. And then, you know, we had just a tremendous surge and have continued to do that. So rather than getting to first and second grade content as quickly as we wanted to, we had to reprogram the entire site in HTML5. So, which was not as, you know, animation friendly and so forth as Flash was. So, you know, we had our challenges over that period, and shrinking a screen size like this into a tablet size was fine, but shrinking it into a mobile phone size was not fine. So, we had our challenges, and we went through the various iterations, and we're actually just about now completing our complete sort of rework, redesign of the product. And we'll talk a little bit about mastering adaptive learning and how that fits into this later. But
can you share a little bit about how you scaled and how you went to market? The consumer market within the U.S. for education is not an easy market.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of companies that have tried and
Sure.
not succeeded. So I'm curious about what did you do right that allowed you to get to the scale that you're at?
Sure. Research is my background, so we did a lot of research on the product, on the marketing, advertising that we were doing. We would bring people into the company. We actually had a research area that we designed specifically for this, for focus groups as well as dyads, the one-on-one, so that we could put a parent next to the child in the product. And of course, this is all disclosed to them that they were being videoed, and we could see the product and we could see the parent and the child as they were onboarding. So we would have them on board and describe their experience verbally, what was going on in their mind as they went through the product. And we did, many of these, and it was fascinating to in the mind of the consumer, both the student and the parent, to see what was confusing to them, what didn't make sense, what they expected to see. And as we did all those things, we were able to optimize and get the product right for the onboarding. And then once they were in the product, where did they go? Where did they explore? And what were their expectations? Because we have curriculum content, and that's the core of the product, but we also have a farm and a zoo and other content areas, and they're all educational. There's incredible facts and things of interest and games and interactive activities. They all have curriculum objectives connected with them. But sometimes the parents didn't necessarily perceive that as like, well, where's the education there? And I want literacy and math for my child. And so there were a lot of fascinating things that we discovered through that process and optimized. And then we did a similar thing with the advertising. We did digital advertising as well as television advertising, and just optimizing what those priorities are for parents. And if you have a young child, you've probably seen our advertising on TV. We do a fair amount, but we've never done a call to action on TV with our advertising. It's not go to ABCmouse, special offer or anything like that on TV. If we do those kind of ads, we do it digitally. And our TV ads either describe the product or have families that have used the product or teachers that have used the product tell about their experience using the product.
Do you see the consumer education market as changing? One of the things that we're seeing is that there's a number of really promising earlier stage startups. I even see some of them in this room that are focused on the consumer market.
Sure.
And they're getting early traction.
Yeah.
Is there a shift that's happening, and what is that shift?
Well, I think that we saw it early, the importance of this, and our goal was largely mission driven. We are a for-profit company, but I felt and my team felt that we could have a significant impact on educational outcomes with kids with what we already knew from our Neopets experience and from my prior market research experience, and with the will and desire to change educational outcomes at scale, right? So, again, through the Neopets experience, the idea of being able to create content once and serve it to the world, because we had the same content everywhere in the world. Singapore at that time had like 4 million that was the population in Singapore. We had over 400,000 accounts registered in Singapore. Never did any advertising at all. So, the fact that you could create content and serve it to the world and have engagement throughout the world, again, if that was curriculum-based, we could have a tremendous impact if we got the content right, the curriculum objectives, the instructional design, the engagement features that engaged a child. And we had to serve three audiences, really, the student, the parent, and the teacher. And getting that right takes a little doing, right? So that was our goal and objective, and reaching 6 million kids a year with our product, and with the additional products we have coming out, we intend to scale that significantly. But I think the more people that are doing it effectively, the better. Certainly from a competitive standpoint, we want to do our best to be the biggest or one of the biggest players in the market, and we intend to do so. But we also want to serve kids older and teach kids English around the world, which we have with our Tencent relationship now in China. So.
Are parents changing? And one area that I'm a newer parent. I have a 1-year-old. And one of the things that I'm concerned about, and many parents are concerned about, is screen time. And It's been something that's come up a number of times over the course of this summit.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that in the context of your business, and sort of how you've seen that evolve over time?
Yeah, so screen time, of course, is a concern. I don't think anybody feels it's a great idea for their child, no matter what the age is, even grown-ups, to be in front of a screen for 8 or 10 hours a day. So I think it's what is the quality of content on the screen, and how long should a child be spending on a screen? We've done over a dozen studies on ABCmouse to assess the efficacy of our program, and have consistently seen statistically significant increases in literacy and math by spending as little as 30 to 45 minutes a week. So, there can be quality screen time that's not excessive. Obviously those kids are not just interacting with ABCmouse. They're doing many other things, but as far as our product and our educational product and getting the outcomes, our goal is to shorten the amount of time that kids need to spend with our product to get exponential learning outcomes. And that's really our focus.
Some people argue that there's a trade-off between creating something that's really entertaining and then creating something that's educational.
Sure.
And I'd like to hear how you think about that. And I was a 4th grade teacher, and this was back in 2004 when, unfortunately before ABCmouse, and so it was one of the few sites that I let my students go to was PBS.
Yeah.
And one day I looked back in the classroom and they were particularly engaged. And there's a couple computers in the back. And I went to go see what they were doing, and they had found the one piece on the site that had no educational value. It was like a dog on a skateboard that you clicked and it would jump. And I was like, oh, well, what is this? So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah,
how do you think about entertaining versus educational?
Right.
And yeah.
So we think of engagement, right? We want to engage the child, in the balance of curriculum objective to engagement and accomplishing that curriculum objective with every piece of content that we build. Entertainment, I think of that as just passive, right? So the instructional design piece is really critical for us, and we're getting better and better at that as the years go by. And we've been working on this mastering adaptive learning for about 3.5 years now, because with the ABCmouse website, we have 10 levels that cover all the grades. We actually have a toddler time too, which is 2 and under. But we have preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, first and second grade content, 2 levels each. And there are learning activities that are sequenced to cover the scope and sequence of curriculum for literacy, math, and other subjects that take a child through those 10 levels. But we've always known that those 10 levels and all those learning activities that are there are not needed in that exact sequence or at all for every single child, right? So that's where mastering and adaptive learning comes in, where we can assess as the child is interacting with the content and place and create a personalized learning path for every single child. And that is really sort of the next phase of, our product development and obviously where things should go. Because, some kids are, ahead of grade level, some are behind, some are different, sort of rates of learning that kids have in different subjects. Some might excel at math and not so much at reading. But if you have a adaptive product that can assess where that child is, what's their prior knowledge, what should they be working on, and then have a scope and sequence of activities that take them all the way through a certain grade, that's really the future. So we just launched in February Mastering Math, a fully adaptive math program from pre-K to second grade for numbers and operations that's fully adaptive. And we've done efficacy studies on that product when we first launched it through kindergarten, but we're now through second grade, and we have another study that we're doing right now in 2 school districts in LA, a total of 1,000 kids, randomized controlled trial, 500 that are in the control and 500 that are in the treatment using this product through second grade. And we're about 10 weeks into that study. But the prior study we did for kindergartners, when we had kindergarten content, we did the study for 12 weeks, worked with an outside research firm, WestEd, and in 5 hours of usage over 12 weeks, so 30 minutes a week, showed significant gains in math instruction and comprehension of the key math skills that are taught in numbers and operations. So with a very minimal amount of time, 30 minutes a week in a classroom is not a lot. And the teachers and principals were just raving about how engaging the product was and the results they'd see right in front of their eyes. So super excited about that.
Really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know, and it's early, but one of the things that's interesting is you have a non-personalized product and then you personalize it. Do you know how much more effective the personalized product was?
It's orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
It really is. We're working on this next study will quantify that more specifically because it'll take it all the way through the second grade. But, like I said, we've done a dozen studies on the existing ABCmouse product that, has these 10 levels, and we're still seeing significant gains with just 30 to 45 minutes a week in math and reading. And the preliminary results that we're seeing from this is going to be orders of magnitude beyond that. And we'll also have a dashboard that parents and educators can see prior knowledge and what they're learning in the program, what they're working on now, and what's ahead of them. That we have over 400 focal knowledge, skills, and abilities in this program, so you can see granularly what the child is learning and what's ahead of them all the way through a second grade standard.
You mentioned that this study was taking place in schools.
Yeah.
While ABCmouse is a consumer product, you actually do a lot of work with schools and libraries.
That's right.
Can you share a little bit about what that looks like?
Sure. So we provide ABCmouse completely free to teachers in their classrooms. So we have over 150,000 classrooms a year that'll use ABCmouse in their classrooms with their kids. And then we also have a library program. So we're, I think, in over 8,000 libraries throughout the United States, completely free when it's used in the library. And we actually had some libraries reach out to us and say, you know, we'd like to buy some accounts so that kids can check them out and take them home. And we didn't want to take those librarians' dollars that they could be spending on books and other resources. So we created a program where we have individual philanthropists that will sponsor the home version for these libraries. And the Chan Zuckerberg Institute is one of those, and we've had many others that have sponsored those individual philanthropists too. And that program has been just unbelievably successful. The librarians will say that these kids, they don't have technology in the home, and they couldn't necessarily afford ABCmouse, even though it's less than $10 a month for up to 3 kids in the same household. It's very inexpensive. You can buy an annual membership for as low as $60, so it's less than $5 a month for up to 3 kids. But there's a lot of people in this country that just don't have the wherewithal to have access. So they can go into these libraries and use ABCmouse, and those that have this program, they can check them out. They can check out devices and use this and get the same gains that we're finding with the millions of kids that we serve every year. So,
that's great.
yeah.
That's great. So a few years ago, you decided to take ABCmouse into China.
Yes.
Cindy Mee, in the keynote earlier this morning, said that there's 17 million babies born every year in China. So the opportunity is really clear.
Huge.
But it's also very challenging for especially U.S. companies to go into China.
Right.
Can you share a little bit about what your strategy has been
Sure.
and what you've seen and what your experience has been?
Sure. We created an English learning program specifically for non-English speakers. So we didn't just take ABCmouse and just launch it in China or other markets. And the biggest difficulty that kids or anyone have with learning English is that they don't have the listening and speaking familiarity with the language. So oftentimes kids are taught English straight with phonics and reading, but they don't have that oral vocabulary and that base of listening and speaking that they need. So our program starts with listening and speaking and then moves into phonics and reading. And we want to build that oral vocabulary so that when they do start reading, they can connect what they're reading with concepts and words that they know already. And we work on pronunciation and so forth. So we went into China on our own in 2015. And our strategy there was we wanted to get to know the market. How do we connect with parents? We did a lot of research there as well. Similar studies to what I talked about for ABCmouse in China with research companies. And over a 3-year period, we built up a significant profitable business there. But we knew we would ultimately partner with someone in China, a local partner. And we started talking to Tencent in 2017. We actually first met Tencent at the ASU GSV conference. You can tell Deborah and Michael that. And the way that this relationship came about was not directly through that, but indirectly through that. So we actually announced just before ASU GSV last year that we were launching that product with Tencent in that market. So over the past year, we've been optimizing the content of that product because we redesigned it to localize it for the China market more so than we had done. And we have a really great, robust product that we're adding new content to regularly. And we've incorporated speech recognition into the product that, again, isn't perfect, but certainly is directional and has been showing great promise. We actually recorded American kids, vast number of American kids, on a set of words and phrases that we provided to Tencent to help their product, their speech recognition product for these young kids, and improve the effectiveness of it significantly, and will continue to do so. It's been a really great partnership. We spend a lot of time there, they spend a lot of time here, and over the next 2 to 3 years, we should have a significant presence there.
What recommendations would you give to an entrepreneur that's thinking about trying to enter the Chinese market? At Coursera, we dipped our toe in a number of times and then pulled back.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what recommendations would you give? How should they think about it?
I mean, it's tough. It really is. We didn't want to reach out to a partner immediately, and first of all, you don't know, is that the right partner or not? And if you have some sort of contractual relationship that's difficult to get out of, we just didn't want to be in that position, right? But we knew we would ultimately partner with someone. So, our strategy was go it alone. Now, we had a big enough business in the US to support the funding of an initiative like that, we needed to invest in for some time, not only in the content that we're building, but in spending time there and doing research and product testing and doing some marketing. So we had the luxury of having the funds and the wherewithal to do that. But if you're a company that doesn't have that, I think your option is to partner, and you try to find the partner, ideally that's passionate about what your product is, right? Because there's certainly a financial aspect of that, making money, but what we found with Tencent, the people that we're working with, and people fairly high up in the organization, they want to provide that service to that marketplace. They have 850 million people a day that use WeChat. They have QQ. They have many products that serve that market, and it made sense to them to have an offering, but they knew that wasn't their area of specialty. So, we have curriculum experts in this area, and again, over the next year, 2, 3 years, we'll have a really unbelievable offering to teach English to kids there, and not only there, but throughout the world. So.
Earlier this week, you made a major product announcement about the Adventure Academy.
That's right.
Which is a massive multiplayer online educational game. Can you share more about it?
Sure. What I think we might do is just show, I have a little 45-minute clip that introduces the product. It's not an ad, but it'll give you some context for what it is, and then I'll speak to it. Is that ready? So that's our new product, Adventure Academy. We made that announcement yesterday. It's launching on May 1st. And it is, as you mentioned, a massively multiplayer online game. So it's a 3D virtual environment centered around a hall of learning. So it's very, educationally focused. It does have elements of engagement that massively multiplayer online games have, such as leveling up and experience points and economy and virtual items and things like that. But the way to level up is by completing learning activities. And we'll launch with over 2,500 learning activities for 3rd to 6th grade. And we'll ultimately have 7th and 8th grade content as well. But we're finding that, again, since the majority of kids are below grade level across every subject by 4th grade, by 8th grade, that's even worse. So all of this content will be valuable either as a refresher or to fill in gaps for the older kids, and be just an incredibly engaging experience for literacy, math, science, social studies, and many more topics that are covered in significant detail.
And what makes this so different?
Well, first of all, there's not a massively multiplayer game of this kind in the market that's educational at all. I mean, we all know the games that are popular today, and there's creativity, and I think you could argue that there are some benefits, but certainly not a lifelong takeaway of a strong foundation for future academic success by spending hours and hours in those products, right? And that's our 100% goal, is that we're creating a strong foundation for future success for these kids and filling in gaps, major gaps that they have in their education that prevents them from being further successful educationally, and again, I think you could argue in life as a result.
So I want to open it up for a few questions. Yes, right here.
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. It's really inspiring to hear the story of ABC Learning. I have one question. So the market for kids early childhood education products is very competitive. There are many apps to help kids learn and to learn to read and learn all the different subjects. So
Yes.
What do you think is the key differentiating factor of ABCmouse that helps it become so successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we cover all subjects, literacy, math, science, social studies. That was our intention from the beginning, not to focus on just one subject area. So I think that parents like that. They like the safe and friendly environment that we have. In ABCmouse, there's no cross-communication at all. Every account is siloed. So it's a real safe environment for kids, and every single thing in the product has an educational purpose and curriculum objectives. So I think that's largely the success. And then I mentioned mastering adaptive learning. That's going to take our curriculum delivery to a whole new level, where right now Mastering Math is a separate constellation app, we call it. It's an app that is part of your ABCmouse subscription, so you don't have to pay separately for it, but it's a separate download on your device. So in the second quarter this year, we'll be incorporating Mastering Math into the core product, ABCmouse Early Learning Academy, and you'll be able to access that full adaptive math program through 2nd grade through the product. And then we're actually currently working on an adaptive reading product. So by the end of the year in ABCmouse, we'll launch Mastering Reading, and it'll be a fully adaptive reading product that, without any human intervention at all, will teach kids to read. They'll be reading by just completing that program on an adaptive basis. And that will further differentiate us. Now we're the market leader in certainly the subscription education business in the US, but this should take it to a whole new level because the effectiveness will be very obvious, and parents can easily track what their kids are learning and what's next all the way through to a 2nd grade level.
So my last question, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to entrepreneurs in this space that are on an earlier stage in their journey, what would that one piece of advice be?
Yeah. I guess I would say that, have a clear vision of what it is you want to accomplish. Surround yourself with great people who share that vision and can actually get things done, right? Are cooperative and, shoulder to shoulder, take the actions you need to take to get a product built, get it to market, and create some viability for yourself, right? Because you can spend like we did with ABCmouse, we had the luxury of doing it because we had the wherewithal to do it. Spent 3.5 years, but not everybody has that luxury. So you have to get a product to market that will get some traction, then you can get some funding, then you can improve the quality. Like, it doesn't have to be the perfect product right out of the gate. It's got to have a minimum, level of viability, but, surround yourself with good people and prioritize, the things that are most important to get a product to market and a sustainable business. Because a lot of people don't do that and they wind up not making it. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.